This is exciting because we have right in front of me here two products which have been very hotly requested on this channel. New release of the Xiaomi Mi A2 and Mi A2 Lite could potentially be a massive one for people who want a great smartphone on a budget. Probably be two of the best budget smartphones of 2018, especially new ones that have just been released. And there are many reasons behind that which we'll get to. But what I want to know today is whether these will live up to the expectations and deliver on the promise that they seem to on paper. So let's get straight to it with the unboxing. That's why I was so hyped for these ones. Right, so on the table here we have the Xiaomi Mi A2 and Mi A2 Lite. Two different versions. The Mi A2 starts at £200 and the Mi A2 Lite starts at £150, and obviously they go up from there if you spec them up. That is pretty impressive when you think about what these have. Straight away they are part of the Android One program, which means they are running stock Android. The hardware is made by Xiaomi and the software is made by Google, and that is a very, very good combination. Let's take a quick look at the specs for the ones that we've got. So starting with the Mi A2, we've got a 12 megapixel and a 20 megapixel dual rear camera and a 20 megapixel front facing camera. Snapdragon 660, which is the top Snapdragon 600 chipset on the market, giving as close to top flagship performance as possible at this mid-tier / budget price. Now, like I said, it's part of the Android One program. It is running stock Android 8.1. My version here has 4GB of RAM and 32GB of storage, but that can vary depending on what model you buy. Then we jump onto the Mi A2, and the camera is a 12 megapixel and a 5 megapixel dual rear camera. Again, 4GB of RAM, 64GB of storage now on this one. This is running the Snapdragon 625 chipset, which is not as good as the 660. It's actually the same chipset as the Mi A1 from last year, which isn't terrible, but certainly the 660 is a better one. But that's really where the price comes down. There is actually an advantage of the Lite version, and that's the battery. The battery is 4000 mAh, whereas the Mi A2 original is only a 3010 mAh, which is a bit surprising that they went with a smaller battery on the original over the Lite version. But you know, it is just a really good spec on the Lite version. They're the sort of main specs. We will now unbox both of them and see what we're working with. Right, so they are cellophaned off, and original seems to be packaged a little bit better. Mi A2 manual, and the case is in here, and it's just a normal sort of silicone case. And then we'll actually get the phone out, and then we'll move on to the Lite version as well. Now, so this does come in 3 different colors, I believe: black, gold, and blue. I've of course got the black version here, which is a nice matte finish, and it will be very, very popular for a lot of people. I'm just going to put it down to one side, and we're going to come back to it. I'm just going to see what else is in here. And you also have your Type-C. Yep, Type-C cable there as well. Fast charging. So we've seen what's in. Let's quickly see what's in here, and then we'll compare the differences between the two phones. So a lot less premium than the original A2. Also in the box we have, again, the same charging brick and micro USB cable. So no Type-C on the Lite version. There's also a case in here, which again is pretty much the same as the other one. It's like a dark, transparent silicone case. Right, so I'm going to power the two screens on. And like I mentioned with the actual build quality from the back, the buttons much more clicky, very nicely made, very nicely put together, the actual buttons on the normal one. The Lite version, a little bit more flimsy. A little bit more plasticky feeling again. So I'm just going to put all my details in, and then we're going to get back to my first impressions when we're in. Right, so all our details are in. I'm now going to turn the brightness up, and as you can see, the screen actually looks a bit brighter on the Lite version than the original. Now, straight away to notice, we have a bezel display here, 18:9 ratio, 5.99 inch screen, whereas on this one we have a notched screen, which is a 5.84 inch display. So the screen to body ratio is bigger on the Lite version because of that extended bits up the top there. But a lot of people will still prefer to have that top bezel. It's just a fact. Not many people have swayed onto the notch this year. And both of these screens are full HD panels as well. So 1080p on both. Now, the main thing you'll notice straight away, and it's something that is one of the big selling points about this phone, is the stock Android. This is basically going to run like a budget Google Pixel 3. A savagely bad notch on the Google Pixel 3. We're going to go round the actual phone now, and on the back, as you can see, it looks basically identical, just slightly smaller. The actual camera bump on the original A2 is when you're making a more premium device, that there doesn't look that great. It's also quite a lot thinner, the Mi A2, than the light version there, and that's probably why the camera bump is much larger on the Mi A2 original. If they made it a bit thicker, they could have added a bigger battery. Come on, Xiaomi, you can do it next time. But outside of that, it's a fairly clean look to the back, very, very nice. We have IR blasters on the top just here, which is great news for some people. And like we mentioned at the start with the battery, we have a headphone jack on the light version, but not on the original A2. And actually, the more you add up the different features of both, it seems to me, and it just pretty much sums up what Xiaomi tend to do, they flood the market with products which are far too similar in my opinion, and it actually clouds people's thinking, it makes people confused, it eats into the profits of the company for sure, because there are good points about this one over this one, and there are good points about this one over this one. So if they just fused the two phones together, it would have been a far better product, and they wouldn't have spent all the money on creating and marketing a second product. And I'd love to actually hear from someone from Xiaomi to explain why they do this, why they have so many products that are all very, very similar, instead of making sort of 3, 4 or 5 really, really great products in each section. Right, so we're going to go onto YouTube for both of these, and I'm going to load up a couple of my videos so we can test the sound quality. Now, straight away before we do that, scrolling through the different sections are actually really good on both. The performance is going to be marginally better, like I mentioned, on the A2 than the A2 Lite. Slightly more smooth on the A2 original than the Lite. It gets a bit jittery, a bit jarry on the Lite version, but in terms of everyday use, that will be marginal. You'll get better performance with gaming, for example, on the A2 than the Lite version. Browsing the internet, viewing certain bits of media, etc. is going to be fairly similar. Right, so first of all, we'll do the A2 normal, and we're going to turn it up to the top volume so you can see how it performs up there. Do the fingerprint sensor to see if there's any difference. Now, Xiaomi usually do phenomenal fingerprint sensors, up there in my opinion with OnePlus and Huawei as probably the best on the market. So let's see. Right, so yeah, it's actually very similar in performance to the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2 from last year. So it's kind of like a top flagship performance fingerprint sensor of last year. Very accurate and very, very quick. Very impressed with that. So a lot of berries. Now we're going to try the light version and see if that's any different. The speaker wasn't very different, so let's see if the fingerprint sensor is. It is. So it's probably just as accurate, but it's definitely slower. You notice it straight away. So if you want a quicker fingerprint sensor performance, you'll go with the normal. So I'm quickly going to jump onto camera, then run a couple of benchmarks, and then I'm going to give you my conclusion on this first impressions, hands-on review, unboxing. Around 150 or 200 pounds that are better than both of these. Let me know below. I'd love to hear your thoughts as always. Like and share if you did enjoy this video and found it helpful. Subscribe and hit that little notification bell. If you're new to the channel and want to be notified every time I post a video, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.